Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Slamcast. I'm your host, Greg. Let's get it started, shall we? Oh, first off, I'm gonna have to apologize if I come off as a little slow or lethargic this week. Ooh, just had a hefty bowl of pasta, some spaghetti, to be exact. And I'm tired right now. But gotta push on, push forward, as they say. Gotta give the people what they want. What the people want is another fresh episode of the Slamcast. So I'm giving it to you, folks. I'm serving it up hot like a bowl of spaghetti. I gotta stop talking about spaghetti. All right. Well, aside from that, hope you're all having a wonderful week. Hope you're having a wonderful day, whatever day it may be that you're listening to this. I hope you're having a nice, relaxing day. A nice, easygoing day. Not too stressful, not too difficult. Just, one of those days that just kind of flies by with the fun. It's good spaghetti. All right, yeah. So, let's kick it off, shall we? Let's kick this fucker off. And what better topic to start off this week with? Hold on a second. Get this shit out of my way. I got a chair behind my chair. I want to kick my feet up. I want to be relaxed. There we go. I'm good now. Apologies for that. Also, before we get started off, just want to keep everybody updated on Slamcast HQ. For those of you who are curious about last week, unfortunately for me, Mark got to keep his job. I don't know if you guys remember that kerfuffle from last week, but a whole bunch of union shit got blown out of proportions, in my opinion. So, Mark gets to keep his job, and I see him there smiling at me like the asshole that he is. Go fuck right off. But anyways, I digress. This topic that we'll be kicking this episode off with, been really wanting to talk about this, actually. Very personal topic of mine. Really wanted to get out there. The topic of the term fuckboy. That's right, folks. Fuckboy. I've been wanting to talk about this for quite a while now. It's been brewing in my head for a bit. And personally, I think it is the best word in the goddamn world. The best word. But also find the use of the word extremely funny for many reasons. First off, personally, I find that, most insults or swear words have some sort of negative connotation to them. I personally feel that this is a beautiful word, and it should be sung to the heavens, so to speak. I think it's a beautiful word. I think it's a hilarious word. And I feel like some people try and use it in almost a negative sense. It's a bit of a middle ground word. At least that's the opinion I'm getting from it. And I personally think it's hilarious because I think we should make the full transition, and it should be a complimentary word at this point. Because I personally, and we'll get onto this in a second, but the way the word's used right now, I feel as though I'm not fuckboy status, but I want to be. It is something I strive towards. I want somebody to look at me, someone who knows me well, and go, Greg, he's a fuckboy. And then a tear will roll down my eyes from the sheer beauty of hearing something pierce my ears. It'd be beautiful. But another reason I find the term and the usage of the term nowadays so funny is because, honestly, just a few years ago, fuckboy was used as a actual insult. Down in the deep, deep depths of the internet, in websites such as 4chan, it basically meant, like, you were a bitch, like you were a bitch boy. Like, you were a wimp. You were a lame-o. You were a loser. It's essentially what the word used to mean. And honestly, the way the wording, you got fuck, and you got boy, and then you got fuck boy. And honestly, that should be what the word means. But I don't know how it came to be, but in like the last probably year, last 365 days, last Earth's rotation of the sun, somehow it's turned into this like guy who sleeps around but is also an asshole, but also thinks a lot of himself, and he's cocky, and it's this weird amalgamation, this weird mixture of different. It doesn't have any clear context at this point, at least from what I've been seeing through internet usages and other things. And before all of this, I don't know how it came to be. I think BuzzFeed or one of those chick websites somehow made it this word. I don't know how, but it just came to be. But before that, honestly, it made sense. It had like a clear, concise usage, and now I'm extremely confused as to what it is. But now that it's like more of a middle ground word, more than anything, it's not even an insult anymore. It's like I want that because I find the word hilarious in itself. Take those two words, mash them together, and just find the usage of fuck and boy, and it's beautiful. It's amazing, and I love every bit of it. And it's something I strive to be. And also, for those of you who know about Mr. Skeletal, praise be unto him, may he give me good calcium and strong bones. It's also used in that context for those of you that don't know. It's for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about. It's some weird skeleton internet meme joke about calcium and good bones, and the word's used there too. And it's so basically what I'm saying is it's being tossed all over the internet, and I have no idea what it means anymore. But I want to be it. I strive to be the greatest fuckboy that ever lived. Someday, I'll show all of you. Mark this Slamcast, this podcast, this recording as my word. Someday, I will be a fuckboy. But yeah, I just want to talk about that because I found it extremely hilarious. From what the word used to be to what it is now, and this kind of weird asphyxiation I have with the word, and how I want it to be a label of mine that I can use for my day-to-day life. So, I go and do a job interview. They're like, so Greg, see, you have written down as a fuckboy, eh? And I'll be like, yes, sir. I'll stare him or her straight in the eye. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Right in the eye. You're hired. That's exactly how it would go. No ifs, ands, or buts. And you all know it. Everybody listening, you all know it. You know it's true. You know it's a fact. Yeah. That's about it. On to the next topic. I'm going to have to pump my brakes a little bit here because this next topic gets a little dark, for a lack of a better term. There's this video game that came out earlier in this month, beginning of early January. The game is called That Dragon Cancer. As you can tell, sounds like a pretty morbid game. And for clarification, it's That Dragon, Cancer. It's not a dragon named Cancer or something, even though that's kind of what the title entails. But I just want to look it up for a second just so I have a clear understanding of what this game is about. It's kind of an autobiographical game, as terrible as that is. It's based on the Green family. They developed it with help from other people, I'm sure. And it's based on the Greens' experience of raising their son Joel, who was diagnosed with terminal cancer at 12 months old, and continued to go on through it for X amount of years, yada, yada, yada. And essentially the whole game is just based around their experiences and their thoughts. And like I said, this is very dark, very sad thing to talk about, but I felt it needed to be discussed because it brought a few thoughts to my head. The more and more I think about it, same kind of thoughts keep coming up, and I kind of just want to get them out there. But just let me think of where to start in my brain. But basically, yeah, it's a sad game, and that's probably where I should start. And not to say this is the first quote unquote sad game, as I'll be referring to it for the next little bit. But it kind of made me realize that this game kind of came out, and it was kind of a big deal, mainly because it revolved around cancer and the experiences one goes through when suffering or watching someone else suffer through these kind of terrible event. We call it this terrible time. And it got me kind of thinking, and I kind of realized that video games, as much as they're portrayed in the media as being these violent kind of brain, mental shifting, anger devices for people who want to shoot up schools or whatever the media may have you believe, video games have also reached that point I've kind of noticed where we're definitely able to explore new things and things that are outside of the norm of video games, and exploring outside of that quote-unquote norm is also starting to become the norm. There are a lot more indie games that I've been noticing that are very experimental, very emotional, and I saw it as a good thing. And it's kind of shitty that someone else had to go through a terrible thing for me to realize that video games are going through this transition, or have finished going through this transition, is I think is the point that I'm trying to get across. Because I feel like most forms of entertainment, at least within the last century or so, kind of have this similar cycle where it's entertainment for entertainment purposes purely, and then suddenly that form of media starts to branch out into other sort of experimental places, where it gets to a point where we can make a form of media purely for entertainment, but in a depressing sort of perspective. I kept hearing, when I was looking up this game, I kept hearing the word cathartic, which I think is the main purpose for some of these quote-unquote sad games or sad forms of medium. Like, I wasn't there, obviously, but the creation of film, I imagined the first few decades of film were more or less purely for entertainment purposes. Charlie Chaplin and those types of films, I imagine, were very entertaining, enjoyable, and then you have dudes like Hitchcock and stuff where stuff starts getting experimental, and then you have just very experimental kind of stuff. And I'm getting off on a tangent here, trying to explain my thought process. But essentially, what I see from this is that video games are starting to hit that peak where video games really don't have to explain themselves anymore when it comes to being experimental, whether it be a cathartic, depressing game, and I just looked that up quickly to make sure I'm using it in the right context, and I am. And you have these other experimental games that get names like walking simulators, because some people don't see them as games, but other people do, and I see them as games. I see them as experiences. And we're starting to hit that peak where a lot of people are starting not to care less, but be more accepting of these types of experimental games that don't have a point system, that don't have a generic story of beginning, middle, end. You won, you saved the princess type of thing. It's very types of games that you play, and then part of the experience is just thinking about the game after you've played it. Not being in front of a screen and actually interacting with the game, but sort of your thoughts and feelings while you were playing it or after you were done playing it. And I feel like that Dragon Cancer, from what I've heard, I haven't played the game yet, I'm not sure if I made that clear. As much as this Green family made it to be autobiographical, I also think they wanted to make a sort of game where, and again, I haven't played it, so I could be completely wrong, but I've heard things, so I feel like this may be possible. Sort of a game where you, after you're done playing it, or when you're not playing it, you still think about it. It still lingers with you. It still sticks with you. Some certain aspects of it, or some experiences, and it just makes you think. Which honestly, it excites me. I really enjoy, over the last few months, I've been playing quite a few indie games that have been very sort of, I keep using the word, but experimental. And they've always only been like 2 or 3 hours long. They're never massive epics where you keep playing and playing. It's just sort of like almost like a movie where it gets the message across, and it gets it done in a good way, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. It gets the point across, hits that mark, and then leaves. And I've kind of been enjoying those experiences because I keep making excuses to not play games, I feel. Maybe not making excuses, but I've been lazy. I feel like these 2-hour games really help because I'm able to get a beginning, middle, and ending without having to invest 70 hours into a game. Which, let's be honest, I love doing that too. But when I'm at home working in a 9-to-5 job, it's a lot harder to pull that kind of thing off. And I'm sure it is for most people. But I'm getting off on another tangent again, but I feel like I got most of my point across there. I'm excited for what video games hold. If we're able to release a video game about cancer, and critically, at least, it goes over fairly well, I'm excited for what other people can do with happier themes, so to speak. Which leads me to my next point. As I keep mentioning, I haven't played that Dragon Cancer yet, and I feel like this is the wrong word to use, but I'm going to use it anyways. Personally, and I've talked to a friend about this, and it's the reason I feel I should bring it up, just to discuss it. I'm afraid to play this game. Like I said, I feel like that's the wrong word to use. I'm not afraid to play a video game. I mean, I've played a few horror games, and those, for some reason, I feel like horror games, I don't find them as nearly as scary as horror movies. I think it's due to the interaction. Because once you get killed by a bad guy in a horror movie like 3 or 4 times, it kind of wears off the suspense of being quote-unquote killed or attacked. Whereas with horror movies, like, there's a director who kind of, like, I have no control in those situations. And I feel like that's why I really don't like horror movies, is because after I'm done watching the movie, I have to think about what I watched, and I really had no control over the situation. And I feel like, I don't know, horror movies just get me way more than horror games. And I feel like part of the reason for the games, at least, is, like, the first hour or so I'll be scared, but like I said, you get killed like 3 or 4 times, and you're kind of like, alright, that wasn't so bad. I just want to see how this game kind of ends, kind of thing. And sometimes they'll bring in new mechanics, and I'm getting into a whole game mechanics thing. I'm just gonna stop that for the audience members who don't want me to go into a whole thing about game design, because I feel like some of you would not be over your head, but either boring or just sound like a nerd. But anyways, let me get back to what I was saying. Yeah, I'm kind of afraid to play it, but I would say afraid is the wrong word, because I've seen clips of this game, and I watched a video that's kind of a case study. At least that's what the YouTube creator called it, so that's what I'll call it. But he essentially talks to the interviewer, interviews the developer, and the main developer, the father, in this game, the father of this family, and talks about the game a bit. And he showed a few clips, and some of the recordings really hit me pretty hard. So much so that I was tearing up just hearing some of these almost familiar phrases. And so yeah, basically what I'm trying to come down to is I'm going to play this game and I'm going to cry like a baby. Is really beating around the bush about it. But I'm going to play this game and I'm going to bawl like a child, and it's going to be cathartic. I know it's gonna feel bad when I initially play it, but I'm going to cry like a child, and after that it'll feel good just to let it out. But I feel like you kind of have to mentally prepare for that, and I feel like jumping into a game like that, especially when people are around, like I don't want anybody hearing me bawling at my computer desk, like thinking I'm like having a mental breakdown or something. It's the exact opposite of what I want. So I feel you gotta mentally prepare for something like that. Like the only other game that I know that I've openly wept to is Walking Dead Season 1. And thank God nobody was around for that, because I kind of lost it at the end there. And also, Walking Dead Season 1, the video game, not the TV show. I haven't watched the TV show. I played the first season of the video game. I don't know why they call them seasons. That makes it sound confusing, especially when I'm trying to explain it to an invisible group of people. But, sorry, I keep looking at the time. I really shouldn't be looking at the time. It's just going to throw me off. But, yeah, I also feel like that's the reason I kind of don't want to watch the Walking Dead TV show, is because I played the first season of the video game, and the writing for that was phenomenal, and the stuff it made you do in that game was kind of, not messed up, but really well done in terms of how living in a zombie apocalypse would be. So I feel like I'd end up just watching the TV show and being like, this isn't as good. That's pretty ignorant of me, but that's kind of how I feel about it right now. But yeah, cried like a baby during like that, and that was pretty cathartic. And yeah, I think those are the two main points I had about the game, that Dragon Cancer. I think I might talk about this game again after I've played it, which who knows when I actually will get around to playing it. Maybe I won't, though. I feel like this is already pretty, not depressing or sad or low point, but I don't know if I want to bring that back up, especially because I think I've already mentioned all the points I really want to bring up. And essentially, if I'm going to start talking about the game after I beat it, it'll probably get into spoiler territories, which I don't want to do for this Slamcast. I don't want it to be spoiler filled unless I make one whole episode purely on spoilers of a TV show or a game or something, and that would probably be more of a discussion. I'd probably have a guest on for that. But yeah, those are those points about that Dragon Cancer. My condolences go out to that family, the Green family. It's tough stuff to go through. Alright. We got some good time. I'm going to have to skim through these next few points. A lot going on in terms of the internet today, or not today, but this week. There's this whole big thing. I'm going to skim through this because I feel like I don't know the ins and outs of this story entirely, but I've talked about it with friends a few times, so I feel like I should give my points. Something recently happened, not recently, a while back. Some sort of, this is just going to show how ignorant I am towards this whole thing and how I probably shouldn't be talking about it. But there was some whole Twitter thing where some dude, allegedly, I'll say allegedly, harassed some woman on Twitter and ended up losing his job and not being allowed to go on the internet for 3 years, is what I keep reading, because he was allegedly harassing this girl and allegedly doing a bunch of other horrible stuff, in terms of harassing this girl through Twitter, even though she started it or something, because he said a thing that she didn't agree with, or the other way around or something. Man, I don't know, but it's been stirring up a lot of shit, and the internet has definitely been on this, at least the parts of the internet that I go on have been on this man's side of this whole thing. And it's just a whole confusing thing. Like, I don't even know where to start, and that's why I'm trying to make it quick, is because I feel like the quicker I make it, the less of an ass I'll sound like. It's just, there's so many different ways you could take this. And I think the main reason the internet's so up in arms about it is because this guy wasn't allowed to use the internet for 3 years, and he's like a graphic artist or something along those lines, and it's just a whole thing. Honestly, don't even know where to begin right now. But I've been hearing from friends who have found news sources that he's done some really bad things, but she's also, essentially from what I've gathered, is both people from both sides have been assholes, regardless of who started it or what happened. And personally, I feel like, because I think this is a Canadian government thing. It's like Canadian government took this to trial, and I just feel like this is handled very poorly, and it's the internet. Like, that's the thing I don't get, is it's the internet, and I feel like people just need to learn to walk away, both sides. I'm not saying either side's right or wrong in this scenario. And I honestly feel like I shouldn't even bother saying which side's right or wrong. And I also feel like I don't have enough information to say which side is right or wrong here. But the main thing that gets me, and I think, like I said, that's the whole reason that the internet's up in arms, is this guy wasn't allowed to go on the internet in the 2010s, because this is over the last 3 years, so 2015, 2014, 2013, I'd imagine. It just, I was saying this to friends, and I'm going to bring this point up, because I feel like this point is valid enough, even though it sounds quite ignorant, is we have an older generation trying to determine things through a new technology that I feel like an older generation, for the most part, doesn't fully comprehend. Because I feel like kicking a man off the internet for 3 years, especially if he's a graphical artist or whatever, it doesn't even matter. Biggest thing I'd say if I was in the judge's situation is I'd be like, you can't go on Twitter for 3 years while we look this whole case up, so then you can't, you know what I mean? Or something. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know where I'm going with this, and I just feel like it's a older generation and a newer technology, and we're kind of in this weird sort of middle center right now where we don't know what to do, because it's the internet, and the internet is forever. And my buddy was telling me that the judge couldn't one of the main reasons the judge let this guy off as not guilty is because they couldn't even find the tweets from 3 years ago, which started this whole thing. And it's like, holy shit, guys. Positive note from this, which I feel like I should bring up. Can't remember where I read this. I think it was when I was hearing something about in British Columbia they're going to start teaching coding as a main class in either elementary school or a high school division, one of those divisions, which I feel is an awesome thing to do. And I don't know if this is in BC or if this is somewhere else, but or maybe it was a different article. It could have been about, if you guys know what Minecraft is, an educational edition came out recently, and a lot of people are like, duh, what's that even do? What's that for? Duh, whatever. Bunch of idiots being ignorant about it. But I feel like, I read something along the lines of either a school or somewhere is trying to teach kids to essentially be nice on the internet, which I feel like is a great move forward, especially with all the anonymity we have on the internet. People being able to go on and pretend, or not to pretend, but essentially mask themselves and then either harass somebody or attack somebody or do something terrible. And, you know, if we could teach our kids to not be assholes on the internet and let them understand, because the main point of, from what I read about this, is essentially letting the child know that there's somebody on the other side of that avatar or that name, you know what I mean? I feel like we have to understand that there are people on the other side of what we're yelling at, if we're harassing or if we're discussing something, you know what I mean? There's somebody on the other side of that computer screen. And I feel like teaching kids that at a young age is the perfect thing to do. Because then, even if they get older and they decide to be assholes and harass people, at least in the back of their brain, somewhere in the back of their brain, they'll know that they're hurting somebody. Because I feel like because there's a computer in front of our faces, we forget that there's somebody else on the other side there too. Which brings up another point too. This whole Twitter thing. That's also a major problem I have with Twitter, or that I've noticed with Twitter, is with Twitter, because there's a 140 character count, you have to be on an extreme of a discussion. There's no middle ground. It's either you hate something or you love something, or you agree with something or you disagree with something. There's no middle ground there. So essentially for something like harassing, it's like, it's just going to be anger. Angry tweet over angry tweet over angry tweet. Like there's no middle ground there. With 140 characters, what kind of discussion can you have with 140 characters? Please, sir, please stop allegedly harassing me, sir. I don't like this, sir. You're being very rude. Nah, screw that. If you're on Twitter, you're going to say, yo, bro, fuck off. Send. Done. Anyways, that's the end of that discussion, because, like I said, I don't know what I'm talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. Let's all just be nice to each other. How is that so hard? How is that so hard? Well, be nice to each other. I get deemed King Fuccbois. Problem solved. Final thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to talk about the Oscars. And no, not the whole diversity thing that's been going around the Oscars, because I don't want to get into that at all. I don't even want to bother with that. But it got me thinking about something else. Excuse me, folks. I figured I'd get a little heated for a second. For the last few years, there's been one actor, and his name is Leonardo DiCaprio. A great actor, an amazing man. I'd imagine he's an amazing man. Never met him. I would love to meet him. Leonardo DiCaprio, if you're listening to this, hit me up, buddy. We'll go hang out sometime. Amazing actor. Millions of amazing movies he's been in. Done the best job he probably could do in all of his parts. Last few years on the internet, people just won't shut the hell up But the fact that Leonardo DiCaprio hasn't won an Oscar, personally, I don't give a shit that Leonardo DiCaprio hasn't won an Oscar. And I feel like everybody else should shut the hell up about it. Because you want to know why? You want to know why? And you're probably going to know why. Oh, I'm going way over time here. Whatever. Screw it. This is going to be a longer one, folks. I'm going to finish up with this. But, all right, listen. Listen to this. Think about it for 5 seconds. We're talking about Leonardo DiCaprio here. It doesn't matter that he hasn't won any Oscars. He's been in a million amazing movies and had a million amazing parts and done them wonderfully. He's done every role wonderfully. No, maybe not every role, but every role I've seen him in, he's done extremely well in. He's gotten his character down to a T. It tricked me into believing he's whatever character he is. So, I don't get why everybody gives a shit about him winning an Oscar. I get it. He's an amazing actor. There's no doubt of that. Why the hell does everybody care? Because the way I think about it, put yourself, we're going to put me, but you can even play this game if you want, but I'm going to put myself in Leonardo DiCaprio's shoes. Alright, I'm Leonardo DiCaprio. I have amazing acting skills. I've been in a million amazing movies. Everybody loves me. Everybody thinks I'm an amazing actor. I probably have millions of dollars. I hang out with hot women 24/7 when I'm not acting my ass off like an amazing man. Like, how is this a problem? I feel like he probably doesn't give a shit about how many Oscars he has because he's living the life. That's what I don't get. People are like, oh, poor Leonardo DiCaprio. No, shut up. He has an amazing life. Why does he even have to care about Oscars? Why do we even have to care about Oscars? We should just care that he's in amazing movies and he's doing an amazing job, and we could go, look at Leonardo DiCaprio. He's the best. He's best guy. Because I feel like everybody's predicting their need for validation onto Leonardo DiCaprio. Or at least the part of the internet that won't shut up about him. Because it's like, clearly, he doesn't give a shit about the validation. He knows he's amazing. He hangs out with the hot models 24/7. He has millions of billions of dollars. Probably. Like, essentially goes back to that Golden Globe speech by Jim Carrey, who, if you haven't seen it, highly suggest you check it out because it's hilarious. And it's essentially just him shitting all over this need for awards that Hollywood has. He's like, they announce him as 2 Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey, and he's like, when I go home to sleep, I dream about being 3rd-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. And he's like, and even if I get that 3rd Golden Globe, it won't fill the void inside of me. And it's a whole bit. And he talks about how if you zoomed out into the universe, we wouldn't even be noticeable. But apparently these award shows are huge anyways. It's like, Leonardo DiCaprio is living the life, and we all give a shit that he doesn't have a golden man in his house. And the way I see it is Leonardo DiCaprio's already won. Unless, because I don't know the man, unless he goes home and it just eats away at him that he hasn't won an Oscar because he needs that validation. Which personally, I don't even think he needs that validation. I think he goes home and he sleeps nice and sleeping sound. Anyways, that was my one heated topic for the week. I just need to let that out there because the last few years people haven't been shutting up about him not winning. And if he wins this year, I'll be happy because then everybody can just shut the hell up about it. I'm your host, Greg. It's been the Slamcast. I'm going to go win a Golden Globe or an Oscar or whatever. I don't even care anymore. See ya. Have a good one, folks. Have a good week.